She returned home with a shaved head and the entire town froze as if someone had stolen the wind from their lungs. Anaya had left only 3 months ago, full of bright laughter, thick black hair tied in a braid that swung behind her like a banner of confidence. Now that braid was gone, replaced by a bare scalp marked with tiny red nicks, and eyes that carried storms instead of dreams. She stepped off the rusted bus slowly, clutching a torn backpack and a paper envelope that she pressed to her chest as though it were the only thing keeping her upright. People whispered immediately. Whispers in a small town travel faster than fire in dry grass. By the time she reached the old iron archway that marked the start of her street, the story had already mutated into 3 versions. Some said she had been ill, some said she had been punished by some brutal group, and others, the cruelest ones, said she had done it to herself because she couldn't handle life outside. But the truth, as always, was far more complicated and far more painful. Her father, Raghav, saw her from the veranda and stumbled down the steps before she could take another breath. He embraced her, shocked, trembling, whispering her name as if afraid she might crumble into dust. But Anaya could not speak. Her throat closed every time she tried. She simply pointed to the envelope, and Raghav took it with unsteady hands. What he read made his knees give out. Inside was a letter from a woman named Mira, stranger to him, savior to his daughter. It described what had happened in the city, how Anaya had been dragged into a violent conflict between a local criminal gang and a biker club known as the Hells Angels. How she had witnessed something she should never have seen. How, in retaliation, the gang had held her hostage for 2 days, threatened her, cut her hair in humiliation, and marked her as someone who should remain silent. Mira, a member of the Hells Angels chapter nearby, had found her, rescued her, and shaved the rest of her head clean so the wounds could be treated. She is safe now, the letter ended, but you need to know, this is not over. Raghav read the words again and again, panic swelling like a violent tide. But what happened next in the following 24 hours was something no one in the town could have predicted. At sunset, the sound came, first a low rumble like distant thunder, then louder, heavier, multiplying until the earth itself seemed to vibrate. People stepped outside, shading their eyes against the orangish glow. Down the highway, like a metal river, came more than 300 Hells Angels riders. Leather jackets, roaring engines, chrome blazing in the dying light. The town, normally quiet, suddenly felt like the center of a world no one understood. They stopped at the main square with perfect coordination. Engines silenced simultaneously, leaving a ghostly hush behind. Children hid behind their parents. Elders locked their doors. No one knew what these bikers had come for, and fear painted every corner of every face, until one woman stepped forward. Mira, the same woman who had rescued Anaya. She removed her helmet, revealing short hair and sharp eyes. She asked for Raghav. When he approached, still shaken, she held his hand gently and said, "We don't let our own suffer alone." Then she did something that shocked everyone. She called Anaya forward, put an arm around her, and spoke loudly enough for the entire town to hear. Mira explained everything. How Anaya had been caught in the crossfire of a gang dispute, how she had tried to protect a stranger, how she had been punished for courage the criminals could not match. Then Mira pointed to the riders behind her and said, "These people. They stand with her now." And in one dramatic movement, every rider, 300 strong, removed their helmets and revealed shaved heads. All of them, men, women, old, young, every single one had shaved their heads in solidarity with the girl they barely knew. Gasps spread through the crowd like a shockwave. No one in town had ever seen anything like it. The toughest-looking bikers in the country had come not for revenge, not for violence, but for honor, for unity, for a girl whose spirit had nearly been broken. Anaya's eyes filled with tears. For the first time since returning, she felt something warm coil inside her chest: safety. Belonging. The riders stayed in town through the night. Rather than causing chaos, they repaired fences, bought food from local shops, cleaned graffiti from walls, and patrolled the streets gently to make sure the gang that had harmed Anaya would not dare return. They worked with quiet discipline, their presence a shield rather than a threat. By midnight, the town was buzzing with an energy no one could name. People brought out tea, snacks, warm blankets. Children, once scared, approached the motorcycles with awe. Riders let them sit on the seats, honked horns softly, laughed with them. And through it all, Anaya walked among them, no longer shrinking into herself but standing a little taller, shoulders straighter, as if absorbing the strength of everyone around her. As dawn approached, Mira gathered everyone again. She told the town they would leave soon. They never stayed long in one place, but before going, she had something to say directly to Anaya. "You survived," Mira said softly but firmly. "And surviving is not a weakness. It's power. Don't ever forget that." Then she handed Anaya a small silver pendant shaped like wings. "If you ever need us, you won't even have to call. We'll know." And with that, the riders mounted their bikes. Engines roared again. This time not frightening, but triumphant. They left as they had arrived, 300 strong, dust rising behind them like a protective veil. The town watched in silence, but something fundamental had changed. For the first time, they saw Anaya not as a victim but as someone who had warriors willing to cross mountains for her. Raghav embraced his daughter. She cried openly now, letting the grief, fear, and relief pour out all at once. The shaved head meant something different now. It was no longer a mark of humiliation. It was a badge of honor, a symbol of survival, a reminder that even the darkest nights can bring unexpected allies. And as the sun climbed over the horizon, bathing the town in gold, Anaya whispered, "I'm not afraid anymore." And she wasn't. Not after what the Hells Angels had done in just 24 hours, shaking the town, reshaping its fears, and leaving behind a story people would tell for generations.